understanding of the Bible in your head doesn't necessarily mean that you have Jesus in your heart.
Get right, get inside, get hungry, got appetite. Everlasting water, never get thirsty. To disputed lands, take a journey.
You are listening to Chad Schaefer on Disputed Lands.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back again to this hour in our marathon series, all for one purpose. If you're just joining us, welcome. We're glad to have you. But we have one purpose for these interview in this marathon series. You can see on your screen, scrolling across the bottom, and in the comments below this video on YouTube, dailyrenegade.com. dailyrenegade.com. You want to open another tab. Don't close this one. Open another tab, bookmark it, and at some point you want to go there during or after the show. You can listen in and find the donate button. You will want to find that donate button because this whole marathon series is for one purpose, and that is to raise money for Josh and Christina Peck. If you're just joining us, you'll want to know that the whole purpose of this is Josh and Christina's son was diagnosed with leukemia just over a year ago now. And during that time, he's been undergoing treatments. He is responding and doing well to that. But as any of you know, even with insurance, medical bills can stack up pretty quick. And when it comes to things such as chemotherapy, you find out there's such as the thing called caps. That means insurance pays only what they will pay. Even if you have great insurance, you get to foot the bill for the rest. What better way than being brothers and sisters than to show our love and our support and our thankfulness for all that Josh and Christina have done and do to provide for the body of believers. They have tirelessly worked and have been examples and really pillars of a young couple, of what it means to walk by faith in this difficult time. So do that. Also in the description below, you will find another link. This is for... and the name of it escapes me, but you're going to find it below where you can donate anonymously. It's a GoFundMe page, I think, but you can do that. But just remember, if you try to donate through that and want to remain anonymous, GoFundMe does take their cut. So not all of your money goes to Josh and Christina. Now, we have not set a cap. We've not got a target amount because knowing you all, you would hit it, and then you guys would just stop giving or give a little less. That's not what we're going to do. If you can give $1, if you can give $5, if you can give $100, if you can give more than that, please do. Please do. But without further ado, I have the great joy, the great privilege of bringing on someone who has influenced my life greatly, and that is our dear brother, L.A. Marzulli, who you now see on your screen before you. There, I warned LA ahead of time. He's going to sit there and take it. That I wasn't going to embarrass him just a little bit. I got to tell him this story in person, but I'm going to tell it again now before a wider audience. That almost a decade ago now, I found L.A. Marzulli's site because I had questions that I needed answers to. One specific in particular, those of you who know me know what I'm talking about. But up until that time, 2 decades ago, I had experienced something that nobody in my church, my deacons, my elders, or anybody around me had answers to. I spent a decade going through very hard times, very pressing times where I had to learn a lot of things, wipe the slate clean of what I thought I knew about the scriptures. It was a decade later that the internet was finally kind of up to par, and I decided maybe somebody has posted information that has an answer to this question I've had for nearly a decade, 10 years prior. The website that I found was L.A. Marzulli blog, the L.A. Marzulli blog. And it was on this website that I first heard anybody out anywhere talking about the things that I had experienced. Not only talking about them, someone who was providing scriptures and answers and information that made sense about the experiences that I had had in my life. From there, back in that day, there were not nearly the trolls. We had not experienced the term trolls yet, and you could comment on L.A. Marzulli's blog. You could meet fellow believers and talk to one another. And it was there that I met a lady by the name of Rose. I simply knew her as Rose for like 4 or 5 months. Come to find out, this Rose turned out to be L.A. Marzulli's editor. But I didn't know that until I had actually started conversing with her. She had pointed me to a website called the Watcher website, where I found David Flynn and later Mark Flynn's material. And then my world blew up. Between L.A. Marzulli, him, and Doug Krieger, and all that they were writing, I was like a kid in a candy store. I was just eating up their material, LA's material, left and right. I finally was getting something that made sense to me in my world that I was experiencing. I came to converse with Rose on many occasions over the phone, her and her husband, and just really came to love them. Of course, watching L.A. Marzulli's blog. And then I'm getting there where L.A. is going to get a chance to talk. This past August, I was graced with the opportunity. A mutual friend of ours, Brother Mike Spalding, invited me to speak about my book at the conference. And lo and behold, L.A. Marzulli is there. I got to present my book that was birthed out of what L.A. Marzulli and David Flynn and Mark Flynn had all done. They had all helped provide pieces. I feel if I had not found them, a major reason for me being on this earth today would have never transpired, never happened. I would not be here today. I would not have written a book, and I would not have been able to minister to now thousands of people myself. All because one man, L.A. Marzulli, who decided to be bold enough to post and say the things that he did. And LA, I'm sorry for embarrassing you if I did, but it's a story that I love to tell. And if I have you on here and I get to embarrass you in person, I'm not going to pass it up. LA, thank you for coming and joining us on the show today.
Well, it's absolutely my honor. And for me, when I hear testimonies like this, it makes everything that we've done and try to do worthwhile, because we know we're impacting people out there. And you know, really, glory to the King. As we were talking off the air, sometimes I wake up in the morning, I go, how the heck, how did I get where you know, doing all this stuff? It's just crazy. If you had told me it was 40 years this June that I became a Christian, 40 years ago, and you know, none of this was even remotely on the radar. So, you know, I remember a pastor telling me, you know, when you come across the line and you sign up, if you really give your life to the Lord, it will be something that you won't even believe. And I would kind of go, well, I'm not seeing that right now. But boy, you know, after 40 years, do I really see it? And again, glory to the King, because he's raised me up, I know, for a time such as this, along with other men and a few women out there that are trying to warn the body of Christ of what's not only coming, but what's already here. And so you know, our films that we make, the books that I write, they go both ways. They go way back into the past and show what's happened, but then they jump to modernity and show what's happening right now and then connect the two. So, you know, our mission statement is to expose the deception of the prince of the power of the air, the dragon, and to herald the return of the King, Jesus. And that's what we try to do.
Yeah, there was a time 2 decades ago where there weren't many voices, nearly as many voices as there are today. People like yourself, Tom Horn and Steve Coyle, that were really the solo lone voices in a empty space where people either flocked to or ran from the things that you guys had to say. And you've had to undergo and withstand a lot of ridicule during that time for people who are ignorant, from people who are ignorant. Those of us who have experienced the supernatural, which is really, you know, your testimony, and people can find that on, just go to the PPS, you can just look for PPS report or Prophecy Politics, in I was going to mess it up. Report, the PPS report. It's just in my head, PPS report. I say it all the time. Politics, prophecy, and the supernatural. There you go. Your supernatural testimony and background really equipped you to do what you're doing today. It really sets you on a trail of the Nephilim to the Watcher's website. A decade ago, it's hard to believe I'm even saying that now. Nearly a decade ago, we experienced a renaissance of many more people coming to the forefront, which added a lot of information. But you still find a way, LA, to catch my attention. You know, from time to time, I have the opportunity to sit here on the couch and put the the podcast on loop, so that it just keeps playing episodes, that I pre-picked ahead of time, back to back. And I'll be here sitting there reading or going through or looking at notes or something. And you still have a way to make me stop what I'm doing, rewind, and I'll listen to the game. What did he just say? And I have no doubt that you're going to do that again for us. Now, I had heard about the topic of what we're discussing today before. I had heard about it. You run across this information if you look up any kind of monoliths or ancient constructions of that nature, but I had not realized just how significant this one was. And so, LA, before you begin, I'm going to try to play this little preview you've put together for this book. I'm kind of zoomed in now, so you can't really see it as well. Maybe you could, there you go. This book right there. It's on the screen there. And we're going to play the intro for that, and then I'm going to shut up finally and let you talk to us. So let's see, make sure everything works right here. Get this loaded up.
There is an ancient site in New Hampshire that may date back 4,000 years. It is called America's Stonehenge. There are precise alignments of standing stones which reflect the solstices and equinoxes. There is also a controversial stone table which may have been used as an altar for human sacrifice. The site is built on an 18-and-a-half-year lunar cycle, like that of Stonehenge, England, and also the Great Circle Mound and the Octagon Mound complex in Ohio. At America's Stonehenge, massive stones were fitted together to create this mysterious site, but whoever built it seemingly abandoned it. You will see just how incredible this site is as we reveal what appears to be a deliberate and orchestrated relationship to Stonehenge, England, as well as other megalithic sites around the globe. Journey with us as we explore America's Stonehenge.
And we're back. LA, you're gonna blow me away again. So the America Stonehenge, when did you first become aware of this? And obviously, I mean, it's obvious to me why it grabbed your attention, but when did you first become aware of this particular construction?
There's a television show called America Unearthed, and Scotty Walter was the host. And he was at America Stonehenge. And in that, he was showing a link between America Stonehenge and Stonehenge, England. And we had to actually have this in the book, On the Trail of the Nephilim. What you referred to as a book is actually a DVD. And it's number one, Mysterious Mound Builders, in the series. And then it goes into Mathematical Mysteries of the Mound Builders. The third one is Supernatural, Secrets of a Supernatural, Voices from the Overside. The fourth one is America Stonehenge, which is what we're talking about now. The fifth one, which I'm actually editing, is America Stonehenge Part 2. And in Part 2 is when we get into the connection with the ley lines. In other words, and this was on America Stonehenge, or I'm sorry, America Unearthed. So Scott Walter's out there with Kelsey, who's at this time a college student, and he's showing the connection between, and this is the work of Kelsey Stone. Kelsey's the third generation of the Stone family that have actually been on the site in New Hampshire. They call it America Stonehenge. It was also called Mystery Hill at one point. But Kelsey is the third generation. So the grandfather bought it. Dennis has been, running it now. He used to be an airline pilot. Now he's full-time working. And Kelsey, of course, is working as an engineer. But more than likely, when Dennis passes, and that's at least several decades, if not 3 decades in the future, maybe Kelsey will take it over. But it's a very mysterious, enigmatic site. So Kelsey, as a curious student, let me just check my dog out here. Okay, he's still in the field. Mr. Wrinkles is in the field. So he's on Google Earth, and he goes from the center of his henge, let's say here, and he goes out to the summer solstice standing stone, and he draws a line. So he's on Google Earth. He finds the center of his site, his henge, and goes out to the summer solstice standing stone. All right, draws a line on Google Earth. Where will it go? Where will it lead? And he does this because he knows exactly where the sun sets and comes up over that stone. He knows all that. So he extends the line and extends the line and extends the line further. And now he's out, over the Atlantic someplace. And the line winds up splitting the center trilithon in Stonehenge, England, which is right behind you on the wall. And that's not a coinkydink. In fact, in the second film, we show more connectivity. Fritz Zimmerman, when Dennis showed us this, and as the best of my knowledge, Dennis, we're the only film company that he gave it to. Now, I could be wrong in this, but I was led to believe that. Let me show you guys something. So this will come out in Part 2, which I'm in post-production working on the edition or the editing on it. So this site, when Fritz saw this, he stated, oh my gosh, this is the axis mundi. This is the center where everything radiates out from that. Fritz may be right. We don't know. But it raises more questions than we have answers to. Right. And in Part 2, when you actually see the connectivity between America Stonehenge and not only the Stonehenge in England, but all these other sites globally, it's like, wait a minute. Who is the prince of the power of the air? And in order to do this, I remember talking to a surveyor in Malibu about this. When I showed him this, I said, could this be done in the ancient world? And he's blown away. He said, absolutely not. There's no way it can be done in the ancient world. So our mission statement is to expose the deception of the prince of the power of the air and the herald of the return of the King Jesus. And what we're doing by these films is to expose the deception, literally, that's right under our noses, right here in the USA. And yet, the church, well, what does that have to do with Jesus? Why do I need to know all this, LA? Because what it does is it gives us the game plan. It exposes the deception. And what we do in all of our films and my books and everything else is we go back into the past and link it to what's happening in modernity. There is a connection between the two. And what this does is it educates people as to what really is going on this planet. There is a hidden, secret history that has been deliberately obfuscated by the powers that be, the deep state, the occultists, and to keep people in the church completely dumbed down. But see, the New Agers and the occultists know exactly what's going on. In fact, we interviewed a druid last summer when we were in England, Maria Wheatley, and she was just a wonderful person. We had a wonderful afternoon with her, and I think she was a little about hanging out with the likes of me. And I just said, Maria, I'm a warm fuzzy bear. Just we'll have fun. And we did. We had a blast. I mean, we have completely different worldviews, but the whole point of sitting down with someone like Maria is to get her perspective on Salisbury Hill, where we went to, and this huge circle that's there. And she waxed eloquent. She's been studying this for literally decades. So it was fantastic to get her take on it. That will be in a future film. So, the New Agers, the Neo-Pagans, the Druids, they all know what this stuff is. Now, they don't link it back to the Nephilim like I do, but they know something is going on. They do link it back, in some cases, to the elongated skulls, which I believe are Nephilim skulls. And we are doing it's actually finished. It's number 6. It's right there. Amazing. And that film will be released this year. It's actually finished. I could release it now, but we're waiting. We're focusing on America Stonehenge, which is number 4, America Stonehenge Part 2, which is number 5. Then we switch to the DNA that we did, and there's a whole bunch of new information. We'll get into.
I'm going to nail you down on getting you back on my show when that comes on, because I have been waiting with a bated breath, as I'm sure a number of other folks have been, about that information coming forth and coming out. I mean, it's understandable for the delay. There's been a lot that has gone on in the last year that makes it understandable why, there might have been some delay about fully putting that together. But I've really admired you're more eager, or just as eager as anybody else out there, wanting to get this information out. But I know that you've set yourself on a pace. Let's do this right. It's going to be slow, but let's make sure we have all the questions answered before they get to us, and so we can, present cognitive, thoughtful, precise information and answers to the questions that are going to come your way. So I'm really looking forward. We'll have you back on when you do release that information. But
we'd love to.
Going back, to this information, in when I spoke with you, I was like, man, I'm going to get brushed up on this. You find articles about people who have tried to debunk or debunk America's Stonehenge, and you can read those articles yourself. But I would suggest you listen to LA and the likes of him and David Flynn, Mark Flynn, Doug Krieger about this information first, because if you do, folks, if you listen to these guys first, and then when you read these articles about people debunking it, it really becomes quite comical when you read their arguments against why it's not what we know it to be. Becomes laughable. One of these guys I was reading, Dr. Runnels in 2002, supposedly debunked this. I don't know if you go into this in your film, supposedly debunking this, wanting to say that I think they were called Ogam script. Ogam script that was fine there was simply chisel marks from roots or plows. And let's use some logic, folks. How often do you see scratches and marks line up to a cognitive sentence, that something that could be read? I mean, yeah, that happens accidentally in nature all the time, right? I mean, it's just idiotic when you see some of their reasons for explaining away this stuff.
That's what they do. I mean, and they'll cherry pick. They'll go into something like they'll do and I'm not going to mention the guy's name because he's written numerous hit pieces on me, and that's what he does for a living. It makes you wonder whether he's, who's funding him. Why does he go after, right? Why does he viciously and vociferously go after everything I do? What is he so afraid of? But, I digress. The bottom line is, in one of these articles, he attacks Dr. Barry Fell. And Dr. Barry Fell was a professor at Harvard. And Fell went to, Scooter's barking, Fell went to America's Stonehenge, and he saw this stone, which we call the Baal stone, all right? And it had been dug up on the site 11 years prior. No one knew what it said. They knew it was some kind of writing on it, but no one knew what it said. But they found it on the site, and it sat in the museum for 11 years till Dr. Barry Fell winds up, and he walks in and he goes, "Oh my gosh!" So I'm filming Kelsey. We're wandering around the museum. This is all in the film, and so Kelsey's by the display case where the original stone is kept. And I'm going, well, I got a little Osmo, so I'm just focusing on him. You don't see me, but you hear my voice. Well, what's this, Kelsey? Tell me about this. He goes, well, these are stones with writings on it that we discovered on the site. Oh, that's pretty cool. Well, what does this one say? And he goes, to Baal of the Canaanites. And I go, what did you just say? And he goes, and he starts kind of laughing. He goes, to Baal of the Canaanites. And I still can't believe what I'm hearing. And I go, what is that? What is that's written? And he goes, yeah, it's a dedication stone to Baal of the Canaanites. They dedicated this site to Baal of the Canaanites. It's a 4,000-year-old Proto-Phoenician script. And this is all in the film. It's all in the film. And you can see my absolute amazement because with all due respect to Dennis and Kelsey and the whole crew, they're not on the trail of the Nephilim like I am. So they don't understand really the whole Canaanite connection with the Baal stone. They kind of get it, but not really. Okay. And when we got there, when I showed him the film, Dennis gave us the best compliment we could possibly get. He said, this perhaps is the best film that's ever been done about America's Stonehenge. So the bottom line is we've got, and this naysayer, this debunker, so-called debunker, went after Dr. Barry Fell. This guy's just, blah, 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 blah. So in the film, I show a list of all his papers, and it just goes on and on and on, hundreds of papers that this Harvard professor has written about all sorts of ancient writings. And so who am I going to believe? This guy who's, Mr. Debunker, who's probably spent a few hours doing this, or Dr. Barry Fell, whose entire life's work is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of papers about this very thing. That's only one deal. So they're kind of like, well, we really won't go there. But what we discovered, that's just one thing with the Baal stone. Then you've got the sacrificial table. So why is this table, why would it be buried in the ground? No one even knew what it was, for crying out loud. So they started digging around it and they realized, oh my gosh, there's something down here. Why would they have the table, let's say like this, and behind the table, when you're above it looking down at the table, you see this little rise, a knoll, and the table kind of sits into this knoll, but you don't know what it is, and its moss is growing over it, and it looks like a little hill that just kind of, it looks like a total natural feature. It's not. It's not a natural feature. It's an oracle chamber is what it is. And there's an oracle chamber which goes, there it is. And you can see that it's actually there's the stone to the left where you see the green. That's where, to the left, the green, right underneath that, the oracle chamber. Okay. And so why does the people who are making soap need an oracle chamber? They don't need an oracle chamber. The whole thing just collapses of its weight. And what's incredible, when we were on the island of Malta, and I show this in the film, on the island of Malta in the film, there was a place called the Hypogeum, which is kept really secret. You can't take your camera, you can't take a cell phone, you can't do anything. But we went down into it with about 20 other people. Yeah, there it is. It's a real good shot of it right there. The oracle chamber is behind it. It's that green area directly behind the sacrificial altar. So you can't see it. You don't even know what it is that you're looking at. And the entrance was probably obscured in antiquity. So we don't really know what the site looked like. The oracle chamber is very similar to the oracle chamber that we were in on the altar. And I blew into it, and it just reverberated through the entire place.
Yeah, I actually remember you talking about that it wasn't really known. People had known that it had tremendous sound qualities, but it wasn't until somebody had gone in there with like an actual horn or something and blown it. And when it blew that, it almost made the whole ground just rumble and shake with the resonance and it was a specific frequencies too, that it would just really it would probably scare the what out of you if you didn't know what was going on. And they want to, these guys trying to debunk and everything, the precision with what it just becomes ludicrous at some point. They wanted to talk about this guy who had purchased the land back in the 1800s or whatever, and he did. Listen, folks, if you believe that, I've got some land in Florida I really want to sell you to. There's no reason, no business that any guy like this would ever put any kind of thought into. It becomes preposterous. There really was more going on here than what meets the eye. It really is a supernatural thing. And then you're asking the question, what? Why? What is this telling? It's another piece in the puzzle. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. I'm going to assume that you have. A guy by the name of Art Monk, I believe is his name.
Rings a bell. Keep going.
He's a guy. He did these films. Somebody digitized these old projector film where he's going and doing the math on the circles and the circumferences and showing how pi and phi and all of these things equate to each other. I am wondering, I don't know if he ever addressed it in these films, but it'd be interesting to see if America's Stonehenge was one of the topics addressed, and then how it was, how it agrees and lines up with the other ones. But let me ask you that question next. You mentioned it in the little clip that we watched there. Measurements of this place. What can you tell us about the measurements?
Well, first of all, America's Stonehenge is built on an 18-and-a-half-year lunar cycle. And, if it's ancient, it's 4,000 years old. And the Circle Mound and the Octagon Mound complex in Ohio, and by the way, we'll be there at the Nephilim Again conference at the end of March. Go to my website, lamarzulli.net. You can see it for yourself. But we'll be there, Nephilim Mounds Conference, Russ Dizdar, Drew Graffia, Chief Joseph, everyone, and yours truly. It's the only conference of the whole year that focuses specifically on the Nephilim. Well, first of all, the site is built on an 18-and-a-half-year lunar cycle. And that begs the question, let's take the Octagon Mound in Ohio. So people will differ on when it was built. 2,500 years ago, 3,000 years ago, 3,500 years ago. It seems like America's Stonehenge was built first, and then they kind of traveled westward and maybe built the Ohio complex after that. Both are built on an 18-and-a-half-year lunar cycle. Why is this important? Because you go back 3,000 years ago, and people don't know that it's an 18-and-a-half-year lunar cycle. And so they're trying to tell us that Native Americans built all this, but they just forgot that they had built it. I love that one. So Native Americans figured out an 18-and-a-half-year lunar cycle, but then promptly forgot that the moon was on an 18-and-a-half-year lunar cycle. And in order to do that, you've got to go out and track the moon, track its waxing and waning. You've got to where it comes up and then track down. And then you've got to chart all that data and somehow figure it out at the end of 18-and-a-half years. Oh my gosh, we're back at the beginning. How is that done? The book of Enoch tells us that a fallen watcher angel by the name of Sariel handed this information to mankind thousands of years ago. That's the book of Enoch, pseudepigraphical book, Dead Sea Scrolls. It's not part of our canon. But there you go. And there's a very interesting aerial shot of all the different sites with the standing stones that correlate to other sites globally. So the debunkers, they never talk about the one astounding piece of information that was only discovered by Kelsey Stone. In other words, no one even knew about this till Kelsey Stone's work, and he's fiddling around on Google Earth, which I already talked about. No one even knew about this. So the debunkers won't get anywhere near that because it points to a supernatural worldview. Because you can't go from the center of Stonehenge, America, to the summer solstice standing stone, and then extend that line and wind up splitting the center trilithon at Stonehenge, England. It's impossible. You just can't do that. Well, it's just a coincidence, blah, blah, that's a really interesting coincidence, isn't it? Mathematical formulas, advanced geometry, trigonometry is embedded in all of these sites. And again, if Native Americans built all these sites like the North Circle Mound and the Octagon Mound, which is what mainstream archaeology insists that's what's happening. But we got advanced geometry, advanced trigonometry. So Native Americans just somehow, it fell out of a tree, they figured it out, but then they just promptly forgot about it. And over the centuries, I'm not buying it. The mainstream archaeologists will tell us that the Shawnee built and constructed this great serpent mound in Ohio. Well, the Shawnee chief, Chief Wallace, right on the record, and Chief Joseph was the one that comes in the film and tells us, and you can see he's angry because, we all talk about prejudice and racism. Well, the real racism is here because Native Americans are saying, we didn't build it. But somehow that doesn't count because the white guys who control the narrative say, no, you did build it. We're going to say that you built it. So you built it. It's like, wait a minute, Chief Wallace of the Shawnee saying the Shawnee didn't build it, but you go to the Serpent Mound in Ohio, and the signage says the Shawnee built it. So who's telling the truth and who isn't? Who's got an agenda and who doesn't? And that's what our films, you're referencing specifically mathematical mysteries of the mound builders. More out there at the Nephilim Again conference, www.nephilimagain.com. Okay. I'm going to take the whole crew out to the Great Circle Mound. And the last time I was out there was 3 years ago. Since then, we hired a surveyor, Todd Willis. I said, Todd, we want to find out how even the bottom of the moat is. We don't know. And how would this be done in antiquity? So Todd goes out there with his little surveying deal, right? And he makes all these marks all around, and he finds out that the bottom of the moat is for all practical purposes, dead level. In other words, we got silt between 6 inches and a foot, but that's, maybe thousands of years of stuff going in there collecting at the bottom. But he went on the record, for all practical purposes, this thing is dead level. How do you do that in the ancient world? Well, you've got to have water. Well, where does the water come in from? They're bringing the water in deer hide skins? Is that what we're supposed to believe? And then digging the thing down, and it's down. I mean, we show how deep this thing is. So in antiquity, when we believe the gates had 2 dragon heads, 2 serpent heads on it, just like the Great Serpent Mound, just like we see all over the Americas, it's always about the serpent, the dragon, right? So when you're down in that bottom of that moat, I mean, it's a prodigious amount of dirt that was moved. And we show it in Mysterious Mound Builders, the very first film, that in order to build a mound like Cahokia, which is 450,000 tons of earth,
right?
Where does that look? 450,000 tons of earth. It's dump trucks end to end for about 230 miles. End to end dump trucks. End to end dump trucks. And the modern day archaeologists insist that Native Americans used the shoulder bones of deer, primitive hoes, digging sticks. I love that one, digging sticks. I'm really going to get out there and get a lot of dirt with those digging sticks. When I show this, and I'll be showing all this at the Nephilim Again conference in Ohio at the end of March 27th, 28th, 29th, right? When I'm out there showing this to people at conferences, the audience just howls with laughter because they realize how utterly preposterous it is. And yet, this is the paradigm that's held to by mainstream archaeologists. So they'll get 3,000 or 4,000 people and they'll, be passing these buckets of earth. They'll kind of set it up like this. But wait, time out. Who's digging the dirt? And you've only got 4 or 5 months out of the year where you can do it. Well, it took hundreds of years to build this whole way. Oh, really? Well, we new discovery in Cahokia, which is the largest mound, said that the mound was maybe built in less than 20 years, maybe even less than 10 years. We don't even know. How was the dirt moved? And then you've got thousands of mounds all over Ohio. Come on, folks. And then you've got the 18-and-a-half-year lunar cycle. We are looking at Nephilim, extra fallen angel technology.
Here in Indiana, there's the same thing. We have Mounds State Park. Mounds there. It's right there, Anderson, Indiana, where they have these mounds too, which they're not as significant as others because, as you said in preface on your page, there's literally thousands of different sites scattered throughout the Americas that are like this. There are some like this one that are deserving of more special attention for the intricacy, the specificity, and the grandeur that just demand our attention, like the Snake Mound, the Circle Mound, and this one that you're looking at in this film here. They demand that more questions be asked. You know, the articles of these guys who want to debunk these, they're built for an audience that, for the most part, is ready to just accept and not critically think about anything they're being told. They're meant to steer you another way. The person who really contemplates, any serious person who sits down and contemplates their responses or the information they try to sell you on this, really doesn't make sense. For goodness sakes, we know for a fact, pre-Columbus in Spain, they have beaver pelts, native beaver pelts that could only be found in the Americas. How did they get there?
Right.
How did they get to Spain? Columbus sailed the ocean blue, and that's when America was discovered. That's propaganda, folks, so that they could conquer it without anybody wanting a bad eye about all the people they're going to slaughter in the process, to claim it in the name of England or Spain or France or whoever, right? Oh, my goodness. I just critically think, people, what's going on here? There's more to it.
Well, there is, and what people will find is when you sit down with most archaeologists, anthropologists, they're ardent Darwinists. So there is no room for supernatural, any type of supernatural event in their worldview. It doesn't exist. So they can never go there. Where I'm a frank supernaturalist because I believe in the biblical prophetic narrative, which if you were to take a supernatural out of the Bible, what's left? You tell me what's left. 1/3 of the Bible, almost 1/3 of the Bible is prophecy. The rest of it is all sorts of accountings of miracles and all sorts of stuff where God intervenes. So we can either believe in the supernatural or not. The ardent Darwinist does not believe in anything supernatural. So these guys come in and they're handcuffed. They're intellectually in a prison. They can never go outside. So they never understand what they're really looking at. Same thing with the New Agers, because they don't believe in the biblical narrative. They know something's going on. Graham Hancock's a perfect example of that. America Before. Great book, by the way. Lots of information. And he, like I, takes a look at the Serpent Mound and go, these guys who are Leopard and all these archaeologists who give this thing a young date, this thing goes way back. Same thing with the Octagon Mound. We now believe that the Octagon Mound may go back, like 4,000 or 5,000 years ago. So, these dates that these people put on based on some pottery shards may not be accurate at all. So the bottom line is these guys, these modern day archaeologists they control the narrative. They tell their archaeological students what to think. They tell the public what to think. They manage all these sites. They control the narrative, just like in South America. That's a great shot of the chamber, the hidden chamber, the oracle chamber. By the way, there's also a room, a hidden, what they call it the bed, but it's certainly enough for a very large man to sleep in. We found the same chambers on the island of Sardinia. But of course, the archaeologists will tell us that that's just coincidence and that cultures mimic each other. Really? Or is it something else? Is that culture that created the tomb of the giant in Sardinia, did they come over here? And that's our hypothesis. That's why the elongated skulls are so interesting to look at and go on. And by the way, the DNA evidence of that showed a Middle Eastern/European connection. So we know something else is going on. And folks, that's why we're on the trail. And I would just ask you not only to contribute to Nathan, to the PECs, and we have done that right here at our little ministry, Spiral of Life. We've, contributed several times to them, and we'll probably do more so. Our daughter, Sarah, had leukemia when she was 6. So we went through the whole process that they're going through. Sarah's a survivor. She's now 29 years old. So it completely ruined, upset the entire family. It's unbelievable to go through. So I would ask, first of all, that you would contribute to the PECs. And then if you have anything left over and you're interested in this, please go to my website, lamarzulli.net, and think about, helping us stay on the trail. Because what we're doing is we're exposing the deception of the prince of the power there. We're showing another history, which is like right under our noses in America. But we spent 28 days in Europe last year. We haven't done too much with the film. We were also in Israel and the island of Malta and Gozo and all over Italy, Sardinia, all those places. We've been to those places and we filmed. And in the America Stonehenge, we let a little bit out, but there are entire films which will be coming out in the next year or two, which would discuss all of that.
Folks, if you're here and you're watching this, my audience, you know and have heard about this stuff, but why is it important to have these films for yourself? You're saying, well, I've listened to it, I studied it, I'm with it. Okay, that's great. But don't you have family? Don't you have friends? Don't you have other people who may not be quite as inquisitive as you are? You have them over for a dinner or something. You say, hey, I got this film that I watched. Check this out. Right? Because you have friends, you have family, you have get-togethers, you have youth groups, you have churches.
It's a great way to
let's watch this a little bit. Yeah. What you do, what you may not realize is, just as I've shared my testimony at the beginning, you're going to find out, maybe you won't see it right away, but I guarantee you the Holy Spirit will be at work. Somebody, somewhere in the audience of your friends has heard about something. Maybe they've forgotten about it. Maybe they're too scared to bring it up to anybody around them without sounding like they're crazy. But you show that film, and guess what? You now have somebody you can talk to, an opportunity to share with them, and blow their whole world up with the whole series of the Watcher series and the Nephilim, on the Trail of the Nephilim series, and all these other materials. The World in the Bondage of Egypt by a guy by the name of Chad Schaefer, Tom Horn's books, David Glenn's book, Josh Peck's books, all these guys' books and information. And before you know it, you have somebody who is reconsidering their whole worldview. They're now ready to see the Father coming, more prepared for the things coming upon this earth than the next person's going to be. You got one more person that's not going to be so easily deceived by the things that they hear on the news or see with their own eyes in the coming future. And that's what it's all about, folks. We don't want to see people deceived. It's happening, just as you said, it's happened in the past. They have technologies and an understanding that rarely discussed or outright dismissed by today's modernity in today's science and experts and thinkers in the world. Don't be fooled, folks. Do not be fooled. You want to get this series, and in LA, I don't know if there's much more to add to this than what you've already said. But again, it's just been such a joy for me, something that nobody will be able to steal from me. I love reminding folks of this. A moment in time, nobody in the earth will be able to steal this from me. It's mine, this time that I got to spend with you and others like you.
It's been great, and I'm sure we'll see each other on the trail. Listen, I've got to get going here.
Yes.
But
no problem. Folks, get the film. We'll have the links below. You can go to LA Marzulli's site. We've really enjoyed having you here, LA. We will get you back again when we have the results out. I'll be in touch. Until then, next time, donate, and we'll see you probably the next hour on here on Disputed Lands, Take on the World TV. Check you later.
Get right, get inside, get hungry, word of God appetite. Everlasting water, never again thirsty. To disputed lands, take a journey. Get right, get inside. Get hungry, word of God appetite. Everlasting water, never get thirsty. To disputed lands, take a journey. Get right, get inside. Get hungry, word of God appetite.